Hello everybody. It's been a long time since I made one of these videos, but I felt impressed to do this once again. The previous videos that I've had uploaded before have been deleted, so no explanation as to why all of that happened. But regardless of that, this is where we're at. So if you can take a look and see this timeline, this is incredible. I've done this once before, several years ago. But I want to do this again, and I really want to get this out and see what kind of responses I get. So here we go. We have several different scriptures in the Bible that can spell out a timeline of the entire process of prophecies being fulfilled. So I'm not making a prediction. You got to understand this. This is not a prediction. This is simply math. That's all this is. It's just math. And all I did was figure out how the math worked and see where it fit into everything. So we're gonna kind of start over here. Right around in this time, we have King Nebuchadnezzar. I know there's a lot of conflicts about when this actually happened and how it affected the temple. So that's around the time that King Nebuchadnezzar took away the sacrifice. Now, if you look at Daniel 9, the prophecy, it talks about 70 weeks, which is, everybody knows, is 490 years. In that Daniel prophecy, it says, it talks about the 70 weeks. There's 62 weeks and 7 weeks, and that leaves 69, and then there's one remaining week. And it talks about that week being the middle of the week. The Antichrist shows up and does his thing and whatever. So if you look at Daniel 12, you're going to find two prophecies that were made, and it says from the time that the sacrifices are taken away until the time that they're set up, there's 1290 years, which I've got right here, from the time the sacrifices are taken away until the abomination of desolation is set up. Well, I calculated that from the time that Nebuchadnezzar took away the sacrifices on the Temple Mount. There was a Dome of the Rock. So that completes the abomination of desolation being set up within 1290 years. And believe me, this is nearly exact. So I just put the numbers there because that's the only place that 1290 fits anywhere in this grand scale. So then you look at the next part of the verse. It says 1335 years. So I added that from that date, and it took me all the way over here to basically 2018, or you could say 2017 and a half. But that also fulfills the prophecies. If you look at when the walls of Jerusalem were first being built, you can look on Wikipedia and see this date. Basically it's 1534. I put 34 and a half on there just because it kind of flows with everything. And then if you add 483 of the 70 weeks prophecy, like what we got right here, you can see how if you add that, you come up with the same exact date. So 490 is the weeks determined for God's people. So that lands you way up into this date, about 2024, 25. And we know that in that time, around April 8th, is the solar eclipse, which nearly 7 years prior, on the 17th, 2017 and August 21st, the solar eclipse happened, and there's almost exactly a 7-year part. But if you notice, it draws an X across the United States, which is really eerie because we don't know of any other time that actually does that. So eclipses always signal a major event, whether it be a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse. So one thing that's really interesting, when we look back at Donald Trump, President Trump, he was born June 14th, 1946, but on that day there was a lunar eclipse. Plus, he was 70 years old, 7 months and 7 days at the inauguration of being President of the United States. So there's more information to be had here. All of this stuff was just absolutely amazing. So the reason why I'm choosing 2024 over here is because if you take a look at Israel becoming a nation in 1947 on November 29th, the day before there was an eclipse. And then, of course, they recognized Israel as a nation in 1948, which that is interesting because Abraham was born in basically of 1948, of the number of years from Abraham all the way up to the birth of, Adam, from Adam all the way up to the birth of Abraham, you have 1948 years. So that was kind of interesting to see that collaborate. So I did a lot of research on the actual birth of when Christ happened, or death. Because of certain dates where they land, the only one that really made more sense out of any other was when Christ died at 33 and a half years old, which was April 3rd of 33 AD. And for about 3 hours, there was darkness, and he died at 3 p.m. So lots of threes in that number there. So what I did was I took some information I got a long time ago. I was trying to find that website. I couldn't find it, but I'm doing a presentation before then. The reason for this number right here, 1984 and a half years, is because King David reigned actually around 40 and a half years. That's his total reign period over Israel. And if you take that multiplied by the sabbatical cycle of 49 years, you're going to get 1984 and a half years. Well, you can't change the date at the time of King David's reign, because if you look at how nicely that fit, when you add that number to when Christ died, you're going to get this date over here. So, sorry, my phone is shaking a lot, but I'm a little nervous at doing this again, but this is just amazing stuff that I find. And all I'm doing is just doing math. I'm not making any, pulling rabbits out of my hat to do this stuff. So the prophecies and all these things that are adding up together are incredible. The information is just absolutely amazing. So the Dome of the Rock, the walls being rebuilt, if you add these numbers up, everything lands on that time. So the other interesting thing is the children of Israel were in Egypt. Now, this is something that goes back before the 70 weeks prophecy. If you take the number of years that Israel was actually in Egypt, in Exodus, it talks about it being 430 years. If you add the 40 years that it was the 40 years that Israel was in the desert before they went into the promised land, and then add nearly another 20 years from the time that Joseph was put into captivity and he went into Egypt, you're going to see that that's 490 years. So from the time that Joseph went into captivity to the time that all the Israelites went into the promised land was about 490 years. You can search and do the math yourself for that. So everything that I showed you is based on fact. and it has if there's any discrepancies, you can let me know what you think they are. But I know with all the historical facts that we have out there on different websites, they all kind of lead to the same similar information. This is everything that I got on my computer. So some of the scriptures that we have in here, we can just read. The abomination that causes desolation, spoken about down through the prophet Daniel, standing in the holy place. Now I'm reading from a Jewish Bible. So now the last remaining week out of that prophecy is between 2018 and 2024. So we are in the middle of that right now, of that last week. If all of these numbers are correct, or as close as they could possibly be to be correct, and 2024 would theoretically, from my numbers, be when Christ returns. So we have that, and then let's see here. Yeah, here it is, right here. It's all of these. The abomination that causes desolation is set up. There will be 1,290 days. How blessed will be anyone who waits and arrives at the 1,335 days. But you go your way until the end comes. You will rest and rise for your reward at the end of days. At the end of all these days. So that's in Daniel 12. Here's the 70 weeks prophecy. That was in Daniel 9. And let's see. This is one other one that I was reading in Revelation. It talks about that tribulation time. Then let's see, all of these other things. I'll go ahead and skip over here and see what I can show you. There's the moons. This one's on April 8th, and then March 25th is a blood moon. April 8th is a total. This is interesting. April 8th, that there is a new moon, and then April 8th there's a total solar eclipse. These two are right next to each other. Right next to each other. So April 8th is a very, very significant time to think about. So here's your X, your cross patterns. That was the first eclipse that we had. The next one is coming April 8th, 2014, and it marks an X across the United States within 7 years. So that was a really interesting thing to see. So this here has a website about the when Jesus died. So this one is the one that I was looking at when it came to me as far as when certain eclipses happen. Oh yeah, and by the way, the other thing that was really interesting is that I took the time period from this time. There's if you look at the historical eclipses, this eclipse here goes to the next one in 2017. It's 483 days. So, or 400, no, 400, what was it? It was 2000, I can't remember what it was. I was trying to match these up. I think there was one that had the exact time length. So if you do the lunar eclipses between these dates, you're going to find that they fall right in with the sabbatical cycles. The sabbatical cycles are any sets of sevens equaling 49 or 490 or whatever. So, but that's what I got. So hopefully I get some opinions on this. Maybe somebody can shed some other light and offer some generous criticism as well. Anyways, God bless.